mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world.
Police identified the two suspects involved in yesterday's mass shooting in California. Two more prominent FIFA officials are arrested in a pre-dawn raid. Members of Parliament are back to work today, and a new Speaker of the House will be elected. Hi, welcome to Humber News. I'm Laura De Silva, coming to you from our newsroom here at Humber College North Campus. California police say they removed 12 pipe bombs from the site of yesterday's mass shooting in San Bernardino. Police are exploring all possible motives for the deadliest shooting in the states since Sandy Hook Elementary. The two suspects have been identified as 28-year-old Saeed Rizwan Farouk and 27-year-old Tashfeen Malik. Police say a man and woman stormed a center for people with disabilities around 11 a.m. local time. They were heavily armed with legal rifles and handguns. Police say they had thousands of rounds of ammunition. 14 people were killed and 21 seriously wounded in what police call a precision assault. The center was the scene of a holiday party held by the Department of Public Health. Police say Farouk was an employee and had been at the party earlier in the day. U.S. President Barack Obama spoke about the routine of shootings in the states.
We have a pattern now of mass shootings in this country that has no parallel anywhere else in the world.
Both suspects died in a shootout with police hours after the attack. Back at home, classes are canceled today at Emily Carr University in Vancouver after a student was stabbed last night. The 24-year-old suspect has turned himself into police and faces assault and weapons charges. Witnesses say a fight broke out between two students. Police say one student stabbed the other in the face with an X-Acto knife. Photos from social media show blood splatters in the hallway. The university released a statement saying the student is recovering in hospital. The FIFA bribery scandal is growing. Two more FIFA officials have been arrested in a pre-dawn raid at a hotel in Zurich. Swiss officials arrested two FIFA presidents as part of an ongoing U.S. Justice Department investigation. U.S. authorities say the two men accepted millions of dollars in bribes. The investigation has already led to the arrest of several FIFA officials on bribery charges. Both men have opposed their extradition to the United States. The UK has launched its first airstrikes in Syria, but without full support of the public. 4 tornado bombers launched airstrikes against the militant group ISIS only hours after Parliament approved attacks against Syria on Wednesday. British newspapers report many people are split on the decision to bomb Syria. The RAF attacked 6 targets from their base in Cyprus, concentrating on oil fields which are being used to fund attacks on the west. There are reports that the country could land soldiers in Syria in coming months. Elsewhere in Europe, Danes are going to the polls in a referendum on whether to adopt EU policy and justice policies. The vote has been a lightning rod for public outcry about border security and migration in the midst of refugee crisis. Officials on both sides are accusing each other of using scare tactics with posters showing victims of child abuse and human trafficking. A no vote would mean losing membership in the Europol crime agency. Polls show the two sides are neck and neck. The results are seen as a barometer to gauge the feeling of other Euro nations on border security. Oscar Pistorius, the Blade Runner, is going back to jail. The South African top court of appeal overturned his conviction of culpable homicide this morning. Instead, it found him guilty of murder.
The accused's conviction and sentence on count 1 are set aside and replaced with the following. Guilty of murder, with the accused having had criminal intent in the form of dolus eventualis.
The famous Paralympic gold medalist was convicted of culpable homicide last year for firing 4 shots through his bathroom door, killing his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. He was released in October on house arrest after serving less than 1 year in jail. Pistorius will be sentenced in the new year. The minimum sentence for murder in South Africa is 15 years, although judges are permitted to shorten the sentence. Here at home, the RCMP is developing a new unit to battle cybercrime. Police say crimes involving data and information technology has increased more than 40% in the past few years. The Mounties have released a 15-step plan for the next 5 years. It includes hiring 40 designated officers with technical expertise in cyber technologies. MPs are heading to Ottawa today for the first sitting of the 42nd Parliament. Ahead of today's session, Minister of Democratic Institutions Marianne Monsef announced new reforms for Senate appointments.
An independent advisory board on Senate appointments will be established consisting of 5 members. The Independent Advisory Board will assess potential Senate nominees on the basis of an open and merit-based criteria.
Shortly afterwards, Liberal Senator George Furey was appointed the new Speaker of the Senate. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House will be elected when Parliament resumes today. 4 candidates are on the final ballot, 3 of them from the Liberal Party and a lone Conservative candidate. This race has not been without controversy. Rookie MP Robert Falcon-Willette withdrew after making controversial comments about the Speaker's influence with the Prime Minister. And longtime MP Maurice Bélanger withdrew on Monday as he announced he has been diagnosed with ALS. Peel Regional Police are searching for a missing 12-year-old girl in Mississauga today. Investigators say Aisha Siddiqua left her home on Burnham Thorpe Road around 4 a.m. and didn't tell anyone where she was going. She's described as 5 feet tall, slim with long black hair. Surveillance footage shows she's wearing a black skirt and carrying a pink umbrella and red coat. Police say she's never left her home like this before. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Toronto Mayor John Tory is calling for a new tax to pay for the city's housing and transit projects. The levy would add a 0.5% increase to the property tax bill and mean about $13 a year more for the average household. It would continue for 5 years and raise about $70 million a year. The plan needs the approval of City Council before it's implemented. Pioneering transplant surgery has given a Toronto teenager a second chance at life. The triple transplant performed at Toronto General Hospital is the first of its kind.
Not knowing of how well you're going to be, or just knowing that you are getting sicker. I was getting sicker and there was no stopping that.
Reed Wiley has new lungs, liver, and pancreas. He's just 19 years old and is the first person to have this type of surgery. Wiley was suffering from cystic fibrosis, a chronic disease that produces thick mucus that makes it almost impossible to breathe. The transplants were performed in a single surgery that lasted 17 hours with 15 doctors working their magic.
Feeling good and knowing you're going to feel good when you wake up is the best feeling.
Since the transplant, Wiley has been exercising, hanging out with friends, and is now looking forward to finishing high school. And we have another science breakthrough to tell you about that seems more like science fiction. The European Space Agency has launched a satellite to test technology that could detect ripples in space-time. Scientists say they're hoping the satellite will help them see gravitational waves, which are left by black holes. Space-time is normally so flat that beams of light traveling in parallel lines never intersect. But when a gravitational wave passes through them, space-time ripples and causes beams of light to intersect. Today is International Day for Persons with Disabilities, and this year's theme focuses on making cities inclusive and accessible. The UN estimates 1 billion people are currently living with disabilities. This year, the UN plans to draw attention to invisible disabilities and improve data about them. Here at Humber, there are services available to help students who face barriers getting an education. This Awareness Day comes one day after the mass shooting in California at a center that serves people with disabilities. It's a stressful time of year for most students, but Humber Student Federation might just have the perfect solution. Dondre Stewart has the details.
It's exam season for Humber students, and it might be rubbing them the wrong way. But don't worry, HSF's got your back, literally. The mobile on-site service, Massage on Wheels, is Humber's way of helping students de-stress and relax during this nerve-wracking time of the year.
Our techniques are our shiatsu and compression techniques. So they're about stress management, and we just melt the muscles right away. The techniques actually trigger endorphin in the muscle. It causes them to relax from the tension and causes everybody to kind of get a little sleepy.
The 10-minute massages focus on the upper back, neck, and shoulders, which are the areas that students get the most tension. Some students really appreciate the relaxation.
Amazing. It was really, I needed that. I needed that for this morning. It'll wake up a bit.
I highly recommend it. I think it should come monthly, bi-weekly even if possible, daily, it's all good.
If exams are making you feel tense, this massage can make that past tense. Dondre Stewart, Humber News.
When we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports, and Catherine Green will have your 3-day forecast.
Clear skies and sunny right now. We are currently sitting at 5 degrees. I'll have your full 3-day forecast coming up right after the break.
A chilly surprise today at the fourth day of the UN climate talks in Paris. Nearly 90 tons of glacial ice has been placed in the shape of a clock in central Paris to illustrate the issue of climate change. Boats, cranes, and trucks hauled the 12 blocks of ice from Greenland. The Icelandic artist responsible for the installation calls it an ice watch. He says he hopes his art can invoke major change in the way people think about global warming. We're going to take a short break, but first, check this out. Sweet isn't usually the first word that comes to mind when people think of Vladimir Putin, but this could be a game changer. A Russian artist had made a life-size statue of the president completely out of chocolate. The confection was commissioned for a chocolate festival in St. Petersburg. Festival goers won't be putting this chocolate in their mouths though. Organizers have decided to offer the lickable likeness to the president and will be up to him whether or not he decides to dig in.